Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating the stitches and techniques that you need to know to crochet the Cinch Stripes Backpack, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. To make this pattern, you'll need 1 cake of red heart roll with it tweed in your choice of colors. I used seagrass. You'll also need a USH 5mm hook. This one happens to be by Furls. Stitch markers are always recommended, as well as scissors and of course your yarn needle. But the unusual supplies you'll need for this pattern are a little bit of rope, although if you prefer, you can definitely do a crocheted I-cord or something along those lines. Whatever rope or ribbon you want to use, as well as some grommets. These are 1/2-inch grommets. Let's take a look at the finished backpack. Here you can see the finished backpack, and this is the part that would be facing out when you wear it. You can see here at the top, it's all cinched up, and as I pull it apart, you can see it's these ropes that become the wearing straps, or handles if you will, that create the cinch at the top. If I turn it over here to the back, we can see here's those straps again, and they go right into the bag through those grommets. And then if I pull the bag wrong side out here, you can see you just pull those inside and give them a nice big, just tie them in a nice big knot so they don't come back through that grommet. If need be, if your grommets are a little larger or your rope's a little thinner, you can always tie a double knot, make that knot bigger. You just don't want them to come back through the grommet itself as you're wearing it. So then, as you can see, when the bag is pulled open, the straps are a little bit shorter, but then when we give those a tug to close the bag, they become long enough for wearing. I do give measurements for those in the pattern, but of course you can change the length of these, make them shorter for a child or someone more petite, or make them longer if need be as well. Now this pattern is made up almost entirely of half double crochet stitches, but they're half double crochet variations. We start at the bottom of the bag, working first a row of half double crochet and then several rows of deep half double crochet, which I'll be demonstrating here in a moment, and those are worked back and forth in rows. Then round 9 is where we work a round of half double crochet all the way around that rectangle that we've been making, and then we can join and begin working in the round. After that, we've got a combination of side split half double crochet and half double crochet in the 3rd loop. And switching back and forth between those 2 stitch styles, we get these great stripes. Right up here at the top, we've just got a simple row of double crochet with some spaces here so we can weave in our ropes. And then of course, it's all capped off with a row of single crochet just to firm up that row a little bit. So let's get started making our Cinch Stripes backpack together. Now this pattern doesn't so much feature any sort of stitch multiples, so feel free to play with the numbers and the size a little bit. Make tiny bags, big bags, it's up to you. I'm just going to be making a small swatch for our demo here today. If you're following the written instructions, you start with a chain of 33, skip the chain closest to the hook, and then half double crochet in each remaining chain across. I like to work into that back bump of the chain, but it's totally up to you. And these are just your standard half double crochets. So at the end of row 1, you should have a total of 32 stitches. Okay, so at the end of row 1, you should have those 32 half double crochets, and I always recommend putting a stitch marker in the first stitch of each row just to help you keep the right number and keep your stitch count. After that, rows 2 through 8 are all chain 1 and then deep half double crochet in each stitch across. Now this deep half double crochet, this is a name I came up for this stitch. It's probably got some other name somewhere else, but I haven't been able to find it. So if you do, please do let me know. Basically, we're going to half double crochet, but instead of going under just those top 2 loops we normally go under, we're also going to go under that 3rd horizontal loop right down here. The one underneath the top 2 loops, just want to go under that one as well as the top 2 loops, and then you can pull up your loop and finish your half double crochet just as you normally would. This puts that stitch down a little bit deeper. It's similar in a way to the center half double crochet or center stitches where you work between those 2 upright bars, but we're not trying to get between those bars this time. We're just getting underneath the horizontal bars. So I find it's a little bit easier than center stitches, but you know, it's still got that really deep, solid stitch that we can make for the bottom of our bag here to help support whatever we want to put in it. So we're still working even here, so you should still have 32 stitches at the end of this row. And like I said, rows 2 through 8 are all the same. You just chain 1 and then work those deep half double crochets across. Okay, so when you've got your 8 rows made, then it's time to move on to round 9, where we're going to start working around our square to make our bag. So we're going to start with a chain 1. Of course, we turn as we always do, and then we're going to work a deep half double crochet in each of these stitches across. So it begins just like all the previous rows that we've done. Just want to make sure and get each one of those stitches. And here is, oops, got that a little bit caught, so I'm going to want to redo that stitch there. But that's okay. I'm just going to pull it on out there. And actually, I wanted to take a moment and put my stitch marker in here. If you weren't doing it before, I do highly recommend that once you start working in the round, you go ahead and put a stitch marker in the first stitch of each of those rounds and in the last. It will help you a lot because joining can get really confusing when you've got that slip stitch in between, and you can end up accidentally working to that slip stitch. So let's go ahead and work our deep half double crochets here on across. There we are. Just wanted to catch on that one particular stitch for some reason. So just work all the way across your 32 stitches, and then when we get to the side here, we are going to turn and work evenly along the sides of our rows. Now, obviously, my swatch is a lot smaller, so I don't have 32 stitches to make here. So I'm coming here to my end, and I've got that marked. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, though, so I can get in there with my hook this time. I know it's the last stitch of the row now. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside and pull it back in when I make my last stitch of the round here. So once you've worked across your previous row, then it's time to turn and work along the sides of your rows. So you're just going to be doing that, working basically one half double crochet stitch in the side of each row. Now you don't want to work into the side of the round 9 that you're currently making. You want to make sure and come down to those 8 rows that you've made before. So if you put one half double crochet in the side of each of those previous rows, then you should have 8 double crochets along the side of your rectangle. And where you want to put those is kind of up to you. You just find a spot where you think they look good. I think that this yarn is a really good choice for this pattern because it does have some interest and color movement in it. So those stitches worked along the side are going to look really good anyway. Then we get to the foundation chain down here where we worked. So we just want to make sure to half double crochet in the bottom of each of those half double crochet stitches that were in our row 1. And these are just standard half double crochets again. There we go. And you can see it's really starting to cup up here on the end because I didn't add any stitches as we went around the corner. And that's what we want. That's going to start giving us our bag shape. So I will just continue half double crocheting here right across the foundation chain. These are just standard half double crochet stitches. So I'm almost there. And this is in fact just about what you have left over from that cake after making one of these bags. Just using my leftover yarn here to demo with. So you want to make sure you work your 32 stitches here across the bottom. And then we work our stitches into the side again, coming up the side, and you should have 8 of those again because you would have had 8 rows, or if you've played with it, however many rows you wanted to put on the bottom of your bag. Totally fine. There we go. And then we are ready to join that first stitch of this round. But I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker in this stitch so that I know exactly where to begin and end each round of this bag. Just makes it a little bit easier to keep track of my stitches. So we're just going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch. Doesn't want to go in there with the stitch marker in the way, but let's go ahead and pull this stitch marker out. I seem to be piercing the stitch markers today. It doesn't seem to happen when I'm not on camera, but of course now it's happening. So there we go. Now we know that's the first stitch that we just joined to, so we'll keep an eye on that one, and we're ready to begin round 10. So for round 10, we're going to chain 1, and this is going to be our side split half double crochet. Now in the written pattern, there are written instructions for this stitch, and there's other patterns that I've made this stitch on before too. And this is something that's going to be a little different depending on right and left-handed. So you want to make sure if you are right or left-handed that you're watching the correct video for this stitch. Basically, it's made the same way. It's just a matter, again, of which direction you're going, but that can be a little confusing, I know. So what we want to do is look for the 2 vertical bars of that half double crochet. Remember, we've got our top 2 loops, we've got a horizontal bar, and then we've got the 2 vertical bars right down here. What we want to do is put our hook, we're going to yarn over and put our hook behind just the one furthest from us. So that is the left bar if you're right-handed, the right bar if you are left-handed. And then just go straight on back between those two stitches to the back of your fabric. So then you can yarn over, pull up your loop, pull it right behind that vertical bar there, and then yarn over and finish your half double crochet as normal. So let's do that again. We yarn over, we go to the next stitch and look for that vertical bar, go under that, and then straight on back to the back of the fabric, yarn over, carefully pull that loop up and through, and then yarn over and finish our stitch. Now I do want to make sure to get my stitch marker in the first one of those that I made there. There we go. But other than that, we're just going to work evenly in each stitch all the way around. So we do a side split half double crochet in each stitch around and then join with a slip stitch just as we normally would. And we do that for rounds 10 through 13. Okay, so after you've finished your first 13 rows to rounds, then it's time for round 14. And rounds 14 through 16 are all the same. We're going to chain 1, and this is going to be our half double crochet in the third loop. So I'm going to go ahead and move this stitch marker out of the way. I'll put it back in when this stitch is finished. And what I want to do is yarn over just as we normally did for a half double crochet, but then we want to look at the back of our stitch. And we look for that horizontal bar on the back side of our stitch. So we're working in the round, so this is our front side, and this is our back side. And we've got those top two loops, the front loop and the back loop, but we want to find that third loop, that third horizontal bar, all the way on the back of the stitch. So when we yarn over and pull through just that bar, and yarn over and pull through all three to finish our half double crochet, what that does is it pushes that top V forward and creates that stripe look. So to do that again, we're going to yarn over, look for that horizontal bar right there on the back, pull up your loop, yarn over, and pull through all three. And again, we're just going to make these stitches in every stitch around, and that's how you work rounds 14 through 16. Okay, so we had rows 1 through 8, which are rows back and forth in the bottom. Rounds 9 through, 9 got us working around, and then 10 through 13 was side split half double crochet. 14 through 16, we have those half double crochets in the third loop. You can see those loops pushed forward. And then we just repeat those. 4 more rows of the side split half double crochet, 3 more rows, or rounds rather, of the half double crochet in the third loop, back and forth, until we get right up to the top. So in total, you should have 43 rounds worked in this pattern, and then we'll be ready to cap it off here at the top. Okay, so let's move to round 44, which is single crochet in the third loop. Just like the half double crochet, we're going to start with a chain 1, but this time we just don't have to yarn over first. So we'll pull that stitch marker out of the way, find that third loop, go under there, and then we can just pull up a loop, yarn over, and finish it. This helps us cap off that look there and gives us a nice single crochet foundation before we begin our rope section. Okay, so after you've single crocheted in the third loop all around, then we're ready for round 45. Round 45 starts with a chainless starting double crochet, but if you prefer to avoid that stitch, you can simply chain 3 instead. I'm going to go ahead and make the chainless starting double crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and move that first stitch marker out of the way, and then I'm going to pull up my loop approximately to the height of a double crochet. Then I will put my finger right on that loop so it can't move around, yarn over with the loop itself, go into that first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So I do have, like I say, separate tutorials for that on the Moogly YouTube channel as well as on Moogly blog. So if you need to check that out again, please do so. Like I said, and if you like to avoid it, you have a different double crochet substitute that you like to use, that's all totally fine. After that first one, then we're just going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the stitch after that. And that should take us all the way around. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, not half double crochet, but double crochet in the stitch after that. We want these to be a little bit tall and have some space for those ropes or ribbons or whatever you're using for your handles. So when we get to the end of this round, you should have a chain 1, skip the last stitch, and then you can join to that first double crochet or chain 3 or however you wanted to begin your round. Okay, so as you can see here, my last stitch was actually that chain 1, and then we skipped that final stitch and joined to our first double crochet. So we're ready to make round 46, which is our last round of this pattern, where we chain 1, and we're simply going to single crochet in each stitch and in each chain space around. So single crochet right in that first stitch, and you can move that up if you like to, or just set it aside, and then right into that chain space. So this final round right here will just add a little bit more stability and firmness to our rope section. When you get to the end of round 46, then you can break your yarn and join, or join and break your yarn, however you like to do it, and finish off and weave in those ends. Then we'll be ready to add the grommets and the ropes. Okay, and now it's time for assembly. The first thing you need to do is line up your grommets right at the base of the bag. You can see here I'm on the back, you can see the seam where I did my joining, and I've just put those sort of right where the rows meet the rounds right there, and you want to sort of wiggle them through the stitches. Now if you haven't done grommets before, there are instructions at the link for the grommets that I've included in the pattern, but basically you get a small base here, and then you would put this through the fabric. Right here is this one with the sort of long column inside. And then you get this on here, and then on the other side of the fabric, you've got this little disc right here, very thin guy. I don't know, there's probably official names for these, but I don't know them. So you put that over, and of course, like I say, you've got the fabric squished in between, so you kind of have to wiggle it around in there. And then you take this tool right here, and with a hammer that you do have to provide yourself, or a mallet, you whack that down in, and what that does, oops, I almost did it right there just with a little tap, it flattens out that center section and creates a really nice firm grommet in there. And this will allow your rope to, pull and everything and not mess up your yarn at all. So these can be really handy and a fun addition to any crochet or knit project. The final step then is adding your ropes or ribbons. Like I said, I used this rope, but you can use a crocheted I-cord or whatever you like to use. You want to have 2 ropes or ribbons that are 72 inches long, and that's the size for a standard adult size. Again, you can adjust that as needed for you. After you've got those 2 ropes or whatever it is cut, then you need to thread them through those chain 1 spaces here at the top between our double crochets. You can see if I turn it over, there's another double crochet there. So it's just woven back and forth. You take 1 rope, let's see, let me pull it apart here. So 1 rope has its fold or bend, if you will, right here, and then it comes out here, and here are those 2 ends of that rope. And then at the other end here, or the other side, we've got sort of the turn for the second rope, and these ends come out here. And when you weave them both in, then when you give them a pull, that pulls the top of your bag nice and closed and keeps it closed while you're wearing it. So after you've got that woven through, then you bring those ends down, and the ends that came out this side, we want to send through this grommet. So the ones that came out this side, of course, we want to send through that grommet. And then, like I said before, once they go through the grommets, then we just go inside the bag and tie them in a nice big knot so they don't come back out. And this is great and really handy too if you want to use something fancier like a ribbon or something not washable. Then you can always untie these and pull the ribbons back out if you need to, and then you can throw your bag right in the wash. And that's how to make the Cinch Stripes backpack. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you'll give all these fun half double crochet variations a try. I had a lot of fun combining them on this project. For this pattern, once again, remember you'll need just 1 cake of red heart roll with it tweed and your crochet hook and a couple of those other supplies. You can dress it up however you like. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.